Welcome and thank you for viewing Understanding the Long Stay Falls with Major Injury Quality Measure. This presentation is one in a series of videos explaining the 15 quality measures that comprise the nursing home quality measure domain of the Nursing Home 5-Star Rating System as displayed on the CMS Care Compare website. You may find it helpful to have a copy of the current quality measures user's manual turned to the % of residents experiencing one or more falls with major injury long stay quality measure page when viewing this video. The link to that manual is found on the next slide. Additionally, the MDS 3.0 RAI manual section J is included in this quality measure. This presentation contains information from the MDS 3.0 RAI manual and the MDS 3.0 Quality Measures Users Manual version 14, accessed in May 2021. This presentation is meant to enhance your understanding of the quality measures discussed during the presentation and is not meant to take the place of or be inclusive of all information and instructions provided by the MDS 3.0 RAI manual and the MDS 3.0 Quality Measures Users Manual. Any updates to both of these manuals will supersede content presented, and the most current manuals should be utilized at all times. The links to the official CMS site providing MDS 3.0 and MDS 3.0 quality measures materials are provided on this slide. During this presentation, I will refer to the target assessment, which is the reason for the MDS assessment. The federally required OBRA assessments are completed on admission, quarterly, annually, and with a change in status. An OBRA assessment may also be completed when making a significant correction to a prior MDS assessment. For OBRA assessments, MDS item A0310A is coded as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. For Medicare Part A residents, the target assessment is considered for PPS assessments if it is a 5-day scheduled assessment. For PPS assessments, item A0310B is coded as 1. Another reason for a target assessment may be a discharge assessment. The discharge assessments considered for this quality measure are those coded as 10 or 11 in item A0310F, return not anticipated or return anticipated. Each of the MDS assessments has a target date, also known as the event date of an MDS record. The first type of record is the entry record. The target date for the entry record is the date the resident entered your building. For discharge records, the target date is the date the residents discharge. The discharge record is coded as a resident whom you are not expecting to return, or as a resident you are anticipating to return to your facility. Also, deaths in the facility are also coded as a discharge record. For discharge records, the actual date of discharge or death is coded in item A2000. For any other assessments, such as OBRA required admission, quarterly, annual, or significant change in status, or the PPS assessments, the target date is the assessment reference date, sometimes called the ARD. The ARD or target date is the last day of the resident's observation period and is MDS item A2300. For example, if a resident, for an item on the MDS that has a 7-day look-back period, the information collected for the 7-day period will end on the ARD at midnight. Let's look at a few definitions. There are 2 types of stays when looking at the quality measures: long stay and short stays. Short stays look at those residents who have been in your facility 100 days or less. For the falls with major injury QM, all the measures that we are looking at are long stay measures, meaning that the residents we are looking at are those with cumulative days in the facility, CDIF, of 101 days or more. For this presentation, we are looking at those long stay falls with major injury quality measures, and those are for those long stay residents, those that have been in the facility 101 days or more at the end of the target period that we discussed in slide 4. The resident must be in your building for at least 101 days to be included in that long stay measure. And a couple of points to keep in mind is that only days within the facility count in the 101 days. When calculating cumulative days in the facility, or CDIF, The day of entry counts, but the day of discharge does not. However, if the resident is admitted or readmitted on the same day as they are discharged, then the resident is considered as having a one-day stay. Long stays may include one or more interruptions indicated by an interrupted stay, where A0310G1 is coded as 1, as long as it is 3 days or less. Some additional definitions include the numerator. Let's look at the long stay falls with major injury quality measure numerator. On the CASP report, the numerator is the actual number of residents who were impacted by the quality measure condition during the report period. This example shows that 4 residents are included in the numerator as having had a fall with major injury during the target period or the look-back period. Residents who have had 1 or more falls that resulted in a major injury, such as a bone fracture, joint dislocation, closed head injuries with altered consciousness, or subdural hematomas are included in the numerator. This quality measure not only looks at the target assessment, but also previous assessments up to 275 days. So in effect, the resident's fall may affect your quality measure for up to a year. Let's look at the definition for a denominator. The denominator is the number of residents potentially impacted by the quality measure condition during that report period. So in this example, 50 residents are part of the denominator. For the long stay falls with major injury quality measure, all residents who have had a stay in your facility 101 days or more with 1 or more look-back scan assessments, so looking back over the past 275 days, are included unless they have an exclusion. The definition of an exclusion is that those certain conditions that will exclude a resident from being counted in the numerator and the denominator. For this measure, there is only one exclusion, and that is if the following is true for all look-back scan assessments: that the number of falls with a major injury was not coded. If the number of falls resulting in major injury is coded with a dash for the current MDS and all the other MDS assessments in the look-back scan, meaning that this item was not assessed, this documentation is excluded. I want to caution you about using dashes. When a dash is used, it indicates that this item was not assessed. The most common use of a dash is when a resident is discharged or dies before the item could be assessed. Dashes should not be used routinely and can affect your quality measures by reducing the size of the resident denominator, causing an increase in your facility's percentage, resulting in an inaccurate picture of your nursing home residents or your quality improvement efforts. The MDS manual provides coding instructions and tips for accurate and proper MDS coding, and I encourage you to review the MDS manual frequently, as the volume of instructions and special circumstances cannot be committed to memory for coding all of the MDS items. But I will give you a few tips to try and remember. The MDS RIA manual states to include falls that occur in and outside of your building, including those that are occurring in other settings, such as in the hospital. The MDS RII manual also states that when coding J1900 fall injury, review the definition. They encourage you to review the definition of minor and major injuries to assure accurate coding. Major injuries are defined by the MDS 3.0 RII manual as bone fractures, joint dislocations, closed head injuries with altered consciousness, and subdural hematomas. As discussed previously on slide 8, residents can trigger for falls and falls with major injury up to 1 year because this quality measure has a look-back scan assessment period of up to 275 days. For more information describing look-back scans, see the long stay records definition in Chapter 1, Section 4 of the QM User's Manual. Be sure that all staff completing the MDS know the CMS definitions related to falls from the RII manual. A fall is an unintentional change in position, coming to rest on the ground, floor, or onto the next lower surface. for example, onto a bed, chair, or bedside mat. An intercepted fall is when a resident would have fallen if he or she had not caught himself or herself, or had not been intercepted by another person. According to the RAI manual guidelines, this too is considered a fall and should be documented as such. What many do not realize is the CMS definition goes on to clarify that falls are not the result of an overwhelming external force. For example, if a resident pushes another resident, this would also include a resident pushing something into another resident, an overwhelming external force that causes them to fall. Therefore, a resident pushes another resident, causing them to fall, or pushes something into them, causing them to fall. These would not be counted as a fall on the MDS. Another area of significant confusion involves falls that occur during therapeutic interventions. In the RAA Manual Section J 1900 instructions state, CMS understands that challenging a resident's balance and training him or her to recover from a loss of balance is an intentional therapeutic intervention and does not consider anticipated losses of balance that occur during supervised therapeutic interventions as intercepted falls. If a resident would fall while working with therapy during balance training, again, this would not be counted as a fall on the MDS. The final definition we must be sure to understand for accurate coding on falls on the MDS and accurate QM calculation is the definition of major injury. CMS defines that this type of injury includes bone fractures, joint dislocations, closed head injuries with altered consciousness, and a subdural hematoma. While other types of injuries, such as lacerations or hematomas, may appear major in appearance, they are not included in this fall category. When looking at your CASPER facility level report, pay special attention to those QMs that are starred in the far right column, the comparison group national percentile. The star indicates that the facility's rate for the quality measure, in this instance falls with major injury, is greater than 75% of the skilled facilities in the country. In other words, 75% of the nursing homes in the US are doing better in this measure than your facility, and therefore you should probably work on trying to improve this QM. Also on the CASPER facility level report, you can see the columns that show the comparison state and national average. These rates compare your home status to the rest of the state and the nation. Again, if your rates are higher than those rates, this might indicate an area in need of improvement. This can provide you with a starting place, but as I mentioned earlier, this QM takes into account going back about a year, so it is also vital that you do your own tracking of falls and that you keep current. Along with tracking that a fall happened, you can delve into your system's level concerns by looking for trends in falls, like time of day or day of week, and then further explore what might be contributing to those trends. You may be able to pull all of the trend type information out of your electronic medical record. If not, we have provided a falls tracking tool on our website. Falls tracking tools pull out potential patterns in falls at a facility level. Are the days of week or certain shifts where an increase is seen? This tool URL is on this slide and is linked with the handouts for this presentation. From your own tracking, you should be aware of an individual who has fallen. Take a look also at your CASPER resident level reports. Do these match up with your facility's tracking of falls? If someone appears on the list that you don't think meets the criteria of falls with major injury, as outlined by the MDS 3.0 Quality Measures User's Manual, and as we've discussed today on this presentation, take a look at the coding in Section J in the resident's MDS. Is there an error? Consider the fall risk assessment tool that you're using. These tools should be able to help increase awareness and therefore prevent some falls. Are you identifying individualized interventions for each resident's specific fall risk and considering new interventions when a resident has a change in their condition or medication, and especially after a resident has a fall? Are you developing individualized interventions for that resident to address the root cause of that fall to avoid it happening again? And when there are changes in condition or new interventions, is that new information communicated to everyone who needs to know on all shifts? These are just a few suggestions to consider when looking at improvement for falls. These are some tools that the Great Plains Quinn has developed and provides for use when we're looking at your falls work. The first GP Quinn tip sheet on this list of tools provides the details that will help individuals completing the MDS do so correctly. We've also provided that falls tracking tool to help you stay on top of trends in falls, and a purposeful post-falls huddle communication worksheet, which allows staff to gather all pertinent information to a fall, start the root cause analysis process, and develop interventions specific to the individual. Here are some resources that you can access to assist you when working on this quality measure. We've provided the State Operations Manual link for review of the rules and regulations related to falls and to be aware of what surveyors are looking for. In addition, the CMS policy and memos can provide documentation of any changes to the regulation. Falls with major injury is a publicly reported quality measure on the CMS Care Compare website, formerly Nursing Home Compare. Use this website to view what consumers see regarding your nursing home and the quality measures. You can also see how your nursing home compares with the nursing homes in your city, region, state, and nationally. We've also included a link to the AHRQ's The Falls Management Program, a quality improvement initiative for nursing facilities, as a comprehensive implementation guide to address and prevent falls. And finally, there's a link to the Great Plains Quinn QIO nursing home webpage, providing additional falls tools, resources, and links to past events. Contact your state's Great Plains Quinn Nursing Home contact for more information or technical assistance concerning your nursing home quality measures. Thank you for taking time to learn more about the long stay falls with major injury quality measure and for all you do in working to improve the quality of care for your residents.